Hi, and welcome to the Veeam Backup and Replication overview video. Today we're going to look at a quick deployment of Veeam, the configuration of various backup jobs, as well as some example restores that you can conduct with Veeam Backup and Replication. Veeam protects not only virtual workloads with VMware and Hyper-V, but also cloud and physical workloads with our Veeam agents. In order to add those environments, we go to Manage Servers, and you'll notice we have some Hyper-V and VMware just by walking through these simple wizards. Now, Veeam is an agentless, image-level backup solution where all we have to do is add the hypervisor through a DNS or IP address, as well as those root and admin credentials. Now we just need to land the backup in a location by either A, using the default, or by adding a new one by right-clicking and hitting Add Backup Repository. A window opens with a bunch of different options, a newer one being object storage, where we can land the backups in S3 and blob storage. Once we've added these repository types specific to the object storage, we can then create what's called a scale-out backup repository. The scale-out backup repository is comprised of two big assets. One, going to be the local storage, in this case a network-attached storage, but also the capacity tier, the object storage, which we determine a period of time in which the data will sit locally and then get tiered off to that object storage. With our VMware, Hyper-V environments in place, as well as our repositories, we could then create not only backup jobs, but solutions for disaster recovery and high availability. Looking at a backup job by navigating to the top here with these ribbons, I can create a virtual machine job for my VMware and Hyper-V environments. These wizards typically ask for a name first, which then proceed by adding the workloads looking to be protected. We can hit the Add button and add at various levels, be it at the host cluster level, templates, data stores, and even VMware tags. Once I make that selection, I then go through and determine how many restore points I want to keep on disk, as well as the repository we want to land the backup. Hitting this dropdown, I can then add that scale-out backup repository. Now, guest processing allows us to ensure the applications running on those virtual machines are properly quiesced before backing them up. This also allows us to restore individual application items using the Veeam Explorers for a handful of different applications. We then schedule the job to fit our needs. And once these jobs complete, they create a separate setting for those backup files. Before getting into restores, some auxiliary jobs to be important will be things like backup copy job. A backup copy job looks a lot like a backup job, with the exception that here we're not only adding virtual machines, but we can do it from the job level by selecting those jobs. So as they change, well, naturally the backup copy job will change. And then we determine where we're going to land that backup. It's going to be a separate location, same location, but here it allows for GFS retention by setting those parameters in play. If the speed from site to site is not what we need it to be to expedite those backups, we can leverage something like the WAN accelerators. This becomes a global caching mechanism that prevents us from sending the same blocks across the wire multiple times. This can provide for some significant savings in bandwidth. Now, the scheduling looks a little bit different from the backup job in the sense that this job is simply looking at the repository and not focused on production data. So we can allow during any time or during certain times of the day by just using this grid here. Now, with backup and backup copy, that satisfies that long-term archival and fast local backups, but in the event we want to satisfy our needs for DR, Veeam also offers replication. The jobs look very similar to a backup job, with the exception that here we're landing at a host or a cluster. They do have the ability, however, for the same guest processing and scheduling that we saw inside the backup jobs. Once the replica jobs complete, they then get their own heading here on the left-hand side, allowing us to use them for failover purposes, or even going in and restoring individual items out of the applications and guest OSs. Now, speaking of backups, going into some more examples, if I tap into my backup files here and then maybe go into my domain controller. Now right-clicking on this virtual machine then populates the restore options that are relevant to it. If I need a wizard to find the machine that has the type of data I'm looking for, I can go in and recover through an application item here wizard on the ribbon, as well as a guest file. Not only can I get into those individual items using those explorers, but if I need to recover the entire machine, I have multiple options as well. Starting out at the bottom, I can recover into an Amazon EC2 instance or an Azure instance. Or locally, I can recover into an instant VM recovery, taking advantage of that backup file and running it as a VM from it. The nice feature set here is that it allows us to spin up a virtual machine from its backup file in just a couple of minutes. Going into an application item, maybe Microsoft Windows, you'll notice the Explorer itself looks very familiar. There's no reading between the lines, simply coming into the console and drilling into the preferred folder and file, and right-clicking provides multiple types of restores. This is just one example of these explorers that are found throughout Veeam software. Now, in the event that we want to conduct some testing, we can do that a handful of different ways. One, instant VM recovery is a great way to manually test. If you'd like to make this more automated, we can use a job called Sure Backup. Sure Backup allows us to take VMware replicas and backup files, or Hyper-V's backup files, and spin them up into an isolated environment. We call this a virtual lab, and we do ping tests, heartbeat tests, and application tests based on a schedule, as well as performing various tasks such as integrity scans, malware scans, but importantly as well as getting notifications. Again, this is scheduled just like it would be a backup job or a replica job, and you can even chain them to occur after a backup job finalizes. So these are just a few of the favorite features of Veeam Backup and Replication. Thanks for taking the time. We look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.